Heath. Okay, cool. Says, hey guys, recently had an exact match keyword GMB get suspended by Google that now has been reinstated. Awesome. This one was one of my best performing GMBs with it generating around 80 to 100 leads a month alone. It's now back in the maps, but sitting right at the bottom of the map pack for its exact keyword match, even spoofing the location directly on top of the business location still comes up at the bottom. This is a service area business, no visible address on GMB, and Google has suspended it for quality issues. What would be the best course of action in order to bring the GMB back from its former glory? I have sites, so Google.sites and syndication network for it. So I have started with some GSA links straight to the PowerShield as well as GMB CID. Ooh, I wouldn't do that. Would a CTR campaign or even running ads get things humming again? Thanks, Heath. Yeah, okay. So Heath, I would say the Google Ads campaign directly to the Maps listing and to the Google Business website. By the way, if you're going to run Google Ads to the Maps listing, you got to use the long, ugly URL. So like wait for the, click into the map and then wait for the URL to unfurl and then grab that whole long URL. You can't use a redirect. But yeah, that absolutely works. And it works really well because it's Google users, the real users. Google knows it. And so I think that tends to have a greater effect than a lot of than even the CT spam tools, which those still work too. Don't get me wrong. I'm using the hell out of them. I'm testing all of them now. I'm using Viper tools, but I started recently testing CTR booster. I'm using one online version called SERP Empire, which is kind of a cloud hosted version. It's got some good features. I'm using CTRify. So I'm using all different types right now to test with, and some tools are better for some things than others. But I still find for pushing maps, one of the best things you can do is run Google Ads. Just display ads is all you need, because you can run a successful campaign using Google display ads with a narrow geographic targeting, something that would make sense. So for a service area business, like a 5 mile or maybe an 8 mile radius, does that make sense? So you can actually take the geo coordinates from the location, even if it's a non-published address. Now, if it's a published address, you can actually literally start to type the business name in your location targeting in the Google Ads platform, and it'll pull it up. It'll pull up the address, so you can specify that location, especially if you have your Google Ads account linked to that Google Business account, right? And you do that in your settings in Google Ads. But even if you don't do that, you can just take the geo coordinates, so the latitude and longitude of where the location was registered, and you can drop that in as the location in Google Ads, and then select radius targeting. You drop that set of coordinates in, and then you can set it out for 8 miles or something like that, whatever makes sense for that particular type of service area for that business. And then that becomes like all the clicks that you get are coming from within that radius targeting, right? So those are local IP clicks. A lot of them are going to come from mobile too, which is even better, right? And so those are like local IP type of clicks or signals that are going to go directly to the map or to the Google Business website. Do both, right? Set up 2 separate ad groups. You got one that goes to the map, one goes to the Google Business website, right? And those are fantastic ways to get really good. And you can run a campaign for like $2 a day, which is $60 a month. It's really inexpensive, and that's all the traffic that you should need to kind of help push that. I think it's one of the best things you can do. You can also set depending on what kind of service it is, there's in-market audiences or in-market segments, as it's called. So some of those are, predefined audiences. So those are people that Google has determined are likely in the market for those types of services. So for example, there's home and garden services, and there's like roofing, home remodeling, lawn and garden services, several things like that you can select from, that's specific kind of for my industries, but you can also what's called a custom segment or a custom intent segment, where you can take just a list of keywords that the prospects for that business that you're promoting for that GMB would likely be searching for in order to, they would be in the need of that type of a product or service, if that makes sense. So for example, in my case, because there's not a specific tree service in-market segment, there's lawn and garden services, and that works okay. But I like to create what's called a custom intent segment, where I'll go out and I'll just grab I've got a pre-built list that I use now all the time, but it's like over 120 some keywords that is like tree service near me, tree removal near me. The cost keywords like tree removal cost, average cost to remove a tree, like those types of search queries. And I put those in there. And what that does is it, like when you create a custom segment, you set up an ad campaign, it takes a couple days for Google to start filling that bucket with people that meet that criteria, if that makes sense. So these are real Google users that Google starts to monitor because you've created this bucket that you say, I want Google users within this specific geographic area that have searched for these types of keywords in the last 30 days or so to be placed into this bucket so that I can serve ads to them. Right. And so those are some of the best kind of, click-through signals that you can get because they're real Google users. And so that's one of the things I would recommend for sure. If you want to do a bunch of spam links to your Power Shield, so your SEO Shield, to your G site and all that, go ahead. For years, that's all I did too. I don't recommend that anymore. I personally don't do that anymore. I try to build topically relevant links even to my G site now. So I'm going out and scraping my own domains. But if that's something you want to do, fine. I highly don't recommend you don't build bulk spam links to your CID URL. Here's why. Nobody builds links to that URL except for SEOs. Like, think about it. No layman or civilian, right? No normal person, blogger, anybody goes and extracts the CID map URL, right? Nobody does that. The only people that do that are SEOs. And so the point is, it looks super unnatural to build links to that link specifically anyways. There is reasons to do it. But if you're going to do it, be very selective about the types of links that you build to it. I only use really high quality links that are topically relevant. And I typically only do a handful of them, usually a brand anchor to begin with, and then maybe a couple of target anchors, which would be, keyword plus location or location modifier, essentially keyword plus city, or near me type terms. And I do that because I don't want to spam that link because it's unnatural looking. If you want to build a bunch of spam links to a map URL, use the share URL. The share URL is a 302 redirect. So it's not, you don't pass any page rank to the map, but it's not, you got to think about, anybody that's going to link to a map URL is going to grab the share URL, that short URL. That's the 302 redirect. And so it makes sense to build links to that, even though it's a 302 redirect. And then also traffic signals, if you're going to do like CT spam tools instead of just Google ads, but like using a click-through rate manipulation tool, like, again, Viper tools or any one of them, the share URL is actually the better URL to run traffic to, or click-through traffic, so referral traffic, if that makes sense, because that's what Google's expecting to see click activity on, is that share URL, not the CID URL. Again, there's reasons to use that CID URL. It's like, it's got the machine ID, right? The company ID, CID, right? So there's a reason to use that, like in schema and in strategic places, like linking to the CID URL on the Google Business website, right? That makes sense to do that. But as far as like just hammering that with links, I don't recommend that at all. So yes, I think that the short answer would be, personally, I prefer to use more relevant, topically relevant links that are clean, even to my tier 1 assets now, including the Power Shield or the SEO Shield. That's just what I've been doing. And it's been working a lot better for me and a lot quicker than doing a bunch of bulk spam. I know some people still like to do that. That's fine. Do it. I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm just telling you that's not the method I use. Particularly though, the CID map URL, I tend to be very, very careful about that. If I'm going to do a bunch of links to that, then I'm going to use more the share URL because that's kind of what Google is expecting to see. Then also run click-through traffic. So activity signals through that share URL, it's expecting to see that. And then as far as, just different types of CTR stuff, I think Google Ads is one of the best way to get results with a Google Maps listing right now. The other things are great too. Some of the CT spam tools are good because you can run referral traffic through tier 1 links. And that's a very valuable thing to do. CTR Booster is great for that. And the reason I say that is because you can grab a list of like citations or, tier 1 links that you're building, which again, I don't do high quantity anymore. I do high quality, very low volume. And so I can grab a list of tier 1 links and plug them into CTR Booster and have it just will go at random. Let's say I set it up for 3 visits per day and I put 20 different tier 1 links in CTR Booster that has, that links back to my money site or the GB website or the Google Map, right? Then what I'll do is I'll set it up to say like maybe 3 click-throughs per day, and it will just randomly select 3 of those tier 1 links, and it'll go open it up in a browser, and it will find the link, the target URL within that tier 1 link or that tier, that page, and then click through to it. And those are referral traffic signals, and those are great. You can still do that with Viper tools, by the way, but you have to set up a separate campaign for each referral URL, which is kind of restrictive. So CTR Boost is really good for that. That's part of the reason I'm using that tool right now, is to send traffic through the links that I build for my own stuff, my own agency clients, as well as for my link building clients, because that's standard operating procedure now. My link building clients, we go out and build high quality links, and then I run traffic through those links, referral traffic to their target URLs, because it makes those links so much more valuable. So, again, there's several things you can do. I don't recommend spamming your CID map URL, especially. But CTR stuff is one of the things I would recommend for sure. And also, like I said, relevant links, guys, they're working really, really well right now, better than I think they ever have, at least, because for years, all I did was bulk spam too. And, I know a lot of you guys are still doing it. That's fine. Continue doing it. I've just found better and quicker results using more topically relevant stuff.